would also like to congratulate FOAID for having invited Pradeep for this wonderful event, because I was so taken up by his passion and focus and responsibility and accountability to nature and humanity as an architect. Great, Pradeep. I wish many people here could emulate you. So today I thought I would talk about reciprocal design. See, this reciprocal design has been my philosophy of design when I started design in 1979 as an individual practice. Today, of course, all of you will agree that the scope of practices have changed. Practices have become firms, and we have a huge bandwagon of consultants whom we have to tango with. So we have the HVAC consultant, the MEP consultant, the facade consultant, the structural consultant. I can go on and on and on, the retail consultant, whoever. So it is definitely not anymore an artist Howard Rock's profession, where we used to, imagine, dream, be very intuitive about our designs, and come ahead with a solution which we think is the most apt immediately. But now what is happening is that it is not designing. You're not an artist anymore, so you can't do whatever you want and get away with it. But you have a certain responsibility, accountability that goes with it, which is much more, because you have the huge democratic group of consultants to handle. So, I often think about our Prime Minister and wonder, how they manage, a group of people pulling them in various directions. So, yeah, I think I was distracted a little, but yeah. So this is reciprocal design that I want to talk to you about, where we are. It's a design thinking process. It's not design alone. So where you facilitate thinking collaboratively, you iterate, you negotiate practically with your acoustic consultant, you negotiate, but then you have your fundamentals of aesthetics and certain ideals in mind. So we have to negotiate with every consultant to get what we want, and then at the end of it, if we get something which is 50% or 70% close to what we would have done intuitively, I think it's a great design. So that is where we are. So today I wanted to talk to you about 5 things which has been the philosophy of my company and my learnings really during the years. So what are the issues facing the country today? I think the planet is being challenged. Humanity is being challenged. So if the planet is not there, there is no humanity. And we do know that we have floods, we have pollution, we have crowds, our cities are overcrowded, we have water shortage, we have the dichotomy of having the very, very economically weaker section living right next to huge palatial marble-ridden homes. So where are we going? I mean, what is the human in us? And how are we reacting to this? I think architects as a fraternity are very sensitive. At least we are trained to be very sensitive. And as we wonderfully learned all that in Pradeep's presentation, he looks at the site, he dreams the site, he goes there, he looks at the views, he explores what the materiality could be, and then, incorporates all that, talks to the client about his budget, and then, you try and see how you can marry all these and create a design. So, planet issues are many. Biodiversity is being surpassed. The limits, the planetary boundaries, we have crossed with respect to that. Water resources, we have to be really careful. In another 2-3 years, we will be facing, if not in certain areas facing it even now, facing severe water shortages. So if water is not there, soil is not there, then there is no food. And if there is no food, then where are we? So we have to be sensitive enough to make the right decisions and kind of, we are going along a path. And we have to identify that we are going not so well, and we have to take a detour and remedify our path and take the right path. And I think that architects have a great role to play in this. Let me share with you why. Of course, all of you must be knowing it, but nature has been given to us, and nature's bounty, I don't think anybody cribs about. So we are all happy with nature. When we are in nature, we are all at peace. We are all in harmony with nature. And then, man came on, and then he carved out micro spaces from this macro, beautiful planet that we got. And, those places should essentially resonate with the harmony and happiness that nature gives you. But very often, this is not being done. Technology is on one hand, and then we have the rapid strides that technology is taking, which is great, because I couldn't have imagined doing acres and acres of housing and trying to, at a one shot, see how many cars you put in and how many apartments you put in without your computers and without the software. It would have been, can you imagine? I trained in the times when we used to have a tracing paper, and then, if we had a prototype to replicate, we would cut it out on a piece of paper, put it this side, put it that side, and see how many come. And then once you draw, you're so wary. You wonder how you're going to erase it because you have to scrape it with a blade. Those were the days when we started architecture. But today, things are so easy. You can copy paste, you can cut and paste, you can do so many things, you can create magic, and you can almost simulate what can be done in a huge township, how many ever acres, 2,000 acres, 200 acres, whatever it is. So this is the scale of our practice which has changed. So how do we cope with this? Some of us are learning to cope with this. We have to learn to cope with this because it is a big challenge. So what I feel is today I'm going to talk to you not only about architecture and interior design, but about urban design also. Because we all are from communities, and we are all from communities that are essentially cities. And so what is the status of our cities? Just think about the Mona Lisa as a painting. It's a beautiful painting, there's no doubt about it. So much is being said about the artist, the paint, everything. But who talks about the canvas? If not for the canvas, the painting won't be there. So I believe that urban design is the canvas that is being created and given to humanity and to the people to develop and live harmoniously and peacefully, doing whatever their call is and achieving milestones and keeping their own targets. So if this canvas is not created responsibly, and if it is not given a priority at all, because I find that even in all these smart city initiatives, I find that design is absolutely non-existent. There's no time, there's no budget for design. So you don't realize the importance of design. And in a context like that, it is so imperative that there is a collaborative effort with all the stakeholders, whether it is the electricity board, whether it is the water board, whether it is the river board, or whether it is the PWD, the corporation, the industries, the commerce, the socio-cultural tourism. So everybody has to play their part, share their concerns, and collectively try to get a solution which addresses everybody's concerns and whether it is equitable to all. It may not be ideal, but we often believe that smartness comes from gadgets. It's quite sad because yes, IoT, today we are able to do such smart things, but the initial spark of smartness has to come from the human being. So he is today not being smart. He's absolutely being very, very, what can I say, very selfish, and, very commercial and, with no kind of thought for another. So I always believe that the choice that you make for your family, whether it is health, whether it is happiness, whether it is clothing, whether it is a home, is invariably always the best for the planet as well. So make your choices right. Today with globalization and I shouldn't say peer pressure, I should say, country pressure. You have developed countries coming in and you think that you have to emulate developed countries to come to on par with what development is. But unfortunately, we forget where we come from. And we have come from a time and a civilization which surpassed every other civilization. So what are our learnings from there? Why would we want to learn from some other alien development? So when you talk about responsibility, responsiveness, it starts in a certain geography with a certain community around it. So the community, the culture, the strengths of that group, strength of the community, the strength of the arts that are prevalent, the strength of the raw materials that are prevalent have to be studied before you take up a design. So only then you would be in a position to get holistic sustainability. So, there are people, when I was at the World Economic Forum, I found that there were indices for the environment, there were indices for human development, but there was no index which combined socio, cultural, economic, and environment. And that is what is required. And when you say culture, socio, it is so regional. Environment, climate is so regional. So how can there be one solution fits all? It's not possible. So you have to identify what we require, which is amply available in us. Today we are going back to the idea of not using canola, of going back to, what oil is it called? Chakki oil. Because you find that, the more processing it has happened in the oil, the worse it is for your health. So there are learnings that you do every day. Coconut oil is being touted as a big, magic medicine. Turmeric, all these coffee days are selling turmeric milk. What do they call it? Turmeric milk, I think, right? And I remember my grandma giving turmeric and milk to me whenever I had a cold. So this is nothing new to us. So it is coming back. Yoga Day is being celebrated everywhere. In China, in all sorts of places. So why is it that we are not aware and we are not understanding the value of what history has taught us? Historically, what have we got? What is the legacy that we have got? So that is why, Pradeep, I was able to resonate with your presentation so much, because I think you respect the soil, you respect the materials, and you respect the people. So once you do that, the design has to be successful, right? So that is Indo-centricity. So let us look at what is Indo-centric. What are the values that were there? Were we defined ever by the number of car parks for a house? I mean, this bugs me no end. All the development authorities tell you how many car parks you should have. They don't tell you anything else. So is that car more important than the family? You can live in a hole in the wall, but you have to have 2 car parks if your hole in the wall is of a certain size. Isn't that ridiculous? So our priorities are very different. So this is something that I thought I'll share with you. Cultural preferences and cultural preservation, our arts, our crafts, are phenomenal. They are very unique. People outside India look at you for what you are because of your art and because of your talent and because of your spirituality. But people within India don't look at that. They look at Turkey, they look at Italy, they look at China for things to be adapted. So please, I'm sorry I'm getting into a mode when I'm very, very, as I said, what started off as a passion is now become an obsession for me. When I started as an architect, the girls here would be able to maybe empathize in 79. When I went to architecture school for, the interview, that's when the bias hit me, When the professor asked me, why are you depriving a male of his career? I had topped the university. So I thought that I would be walking into, and I had done an excellent job with my sketching, because those days it was not nata, it was just sketching. And this is what he asked me. So it hit me that I have to work with a certain bias. After I finished, I went to the site. I used to wear a sari, even when I was 20, just because that mason had to respect me. So these were the biases that I had to work with. And so what happened was, I started doing projects which gave me a lot of satisfaction. So I started with projects where I could conserve energy, I could do cost effectiveness. So that is a blessing in disguise, I must say, because it has shown me the way to move forward, and the right way, I believe. Yeah? So sustainable architecture, when you think about sustainable architecture, it is very difficult. I was at a forum, the National Architecture, NAT, NAT, something like that, architectural thing, where I was talking about green architecture. So there was a huge group of people, architects, fellow architects, and I was saying that, green is the way. This was about 6-7 years ago. So you have to be green, you have to be responsible when you choose your materials, you have to be responsible to see what your carbon footprint is, to be responsible to see how much of energy you consume when daylight is available, why the hell do you use power? Why should you artificially light a space? I'm sorry, Phillips, but I can really say that the best lighting for the eye, and especially in an architect's office to work on computers, comes from a daylight, where you cut the heat, cut the glare, but let the light. That is our mantra. But whereas, the compulsions that we've had with emulating developed countries, we wrap our buildings with glass. And we wrap it with glass if it is a west-facing building, so be it. The facade has to be glass. So what are you doing by that? So we also give in. There is a picture shown and said, this is the way, you have to do it. Yeah, well, so what? The cost of the project will go up. Why do we care? So this is something that I thought I should not, lose a chance to say from my years of work experience to younger architects that you should have your priorities straight. Have your priorities straight and do as much work as you can. Use technology, use anything that is modern and contemporary, but try and study how it can, synthesize and synergize and resonate with where you come from. So that is a challenge. Getting something out of a Singapore model and replicating it in India might be easier. But when you have to create a Singapore-like building with Indian features, what do? It is more work. It is more thinking. But that's the way forward. So I think I don't know whether my presentation not being here has been better or bad for you, but I think I have just said what I felt from my heart, and I do believe that architecture is a great profession. We need many urban designers. We need every street corner, every public space to be designed, thought of, and planned. And therefore, I think we also have a big responsibility. I'm not only talking about architects, I'm also talking about the building community. I know Everest is doing great work in trying to, get material which is after they gave up their asbestos, when they moved from asbestos to non-asbestos. It must have costed them a lot. But there are many companies who are doing such research and getting, the right priorities. So please let us, as a community, tango, or as an orchestra, play together to see that we save humanity and the planet. Believe me, otherwise we're in trouble. Thank you so much.